Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the giant human warship as it dropped out of hyperspace. The ship was called UHS Vengeance, and it was the biggest weapon humanity had ever built. Through the main window, he could see a blue and green planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. "Captain, we have arrived at Kepler 442b," said Pete Johnson from his position at the weapons control station. Pete had been with Jake for 10 years, fighting aliens across the galaxy. They both remembered the day the Zephyrians attacked Earth's colonies. Jake nodded and walked to his command chair. The bridge was filled with the soft hum of computers and the quiet voices of his crew. 3,000 humans worked on this ship, and every single one of them wanted revenge for what the aliens had done to their people. "Helen, give me a full scan of the planet," Jake ordered. Dr. Helen Brooks was the ship's science officer. She was smart and always knew exactly where to hit an enemy planet to cause the most damage. Helen's fingers moved quickly across her control panel. Numbers and images appeared on the main screen. "Captain, I count 2 billion Zephyrians living down there. They have 12 major cities and hundreds of smaller towns. Their military bases are here, here, and here." She pointed to different spots on the planet map. Jake studied the information. The Zephyrians looked like tall purple creatures with 4 arms and big black eyes. They were strong and cruel. For 30 years they had been capturing human colonies and making people work as slaves. Human children had died in their mines. Human families had been broken apart and sold like animals. "Admiral Carter's orders are clear," Jake said to his crew. "No mercy, no survivors. These aliens chose to hurt our people, so now they will pay the price." Lisa Carter was the admiral in charge of the human fleet. She had lost her own daughter in a Zephyrian attack 5 years ago. Since then, she had been planning this moment. The humans had built bigger ships and better weapons. Now it was time to use them. "All weapon systems ready, Captain," reported Commander Pete Johnson. The UHS Vengeance carried plasma cannons that could melt through mountains. It had antimatter torpedoes that could destroy entire cities with one shot. The ship's shields could protect it from almost any attack. Jake looked at his crew one more time. He saw Maria Santos at the engineering station, making sure all the ship's systems worked perfectly. He saw Steve Walsh at Tactical, ready to coordinate the attack. He saw Lucy Thompson at Communications, listening for any alien messages. "This is for all the humans who died because of these creatures," Jake announced to the entire ship over the communication system. "This is for every child who cried for help while working in their mines. This is for every family they destroyed. Today, the Zephyrians learn what happens when you mess with humanity." The crew cheered. They had all lost someone to the aliens. Some had lost parents, others had lost friends. A few had lost entire families when the Zephyrians attacked human colonies. "Fire the first wave," Jake ordered. The ship's main plasma cannons charged up with a deep rumbling sound. Energy flowed through the weapon systems like lightning. On the main screen, Jake could see targeting information for the planet's biggest city. 2 million Zephyrians lived there. "Firing now," Pete announced. Bright beams of plasma shot out from the UHS Vengeance. They moved faster than light and hit the planet's atmosphere in seconds. The city below exploded in a flash of white light. When the light faded, there was nothing left but a smoking crater in the ground. "Direct hit," Steve reported. "Target completely destroyed." The bridge crew watched as more plasma beams hit other targets on the planet. Military bases vanished in explosions of fire and smoke. Spaceports were turned into melted metal. Government buildings were reduced to ash. "Load the antimatter torpedoes," Jake commanded. These weapons were even more powerful than the plasma cannons. Each torpedo could destroy an area the size of a small country. Helen was watching her sensors carefully. "Captain, I'm detecting underground bunkers. The aliens are trying to hide." "Mark those locations," Jake said. "Nothing survives today." The antimatter torpedoes launched from the ship's missile tubes. They looked like small stars as they flew toward the planet. When they hit, entire continents shook from the explosions. Mountains collapsed into valleys. Rivers boiled away into steam. Lucy Thompson turned to Jake with a worried expression. "Captain, I'm receiving distress calls from the planet. They're begging us to stop. They say they surrender." Jake's face remained cold. "No surrender. No mercy. They had 30 years to stop hurting humans. They chose war. So now they get war. More weapons fired from the UHS Vengeance. The planet's beautiful blue oceans began to turn red and orange from all the explosions. The green forests caught fire and burned away to nothing. The white clouds became black with smoke and ash. Dr. Brooks checked her readings again. Captain, the planet's surface temperature is rising fast. The explosions are changing the atmosphere. Soon it will be too hot for anything to live down there. Good, Jake replied. He remembered the videos he had seen of human children working in alien mines. He remembered the reports of human families being sold as pets to rich Zephyrians. He remembered the pictures of human settlements that had been bombed from space. The attack continued for hours. The UHS Vengeance had enough weapons and energy to destroy 100 planets. The crew worked without stopping, firing shot after shot at their targets below. By the time the first day ended, most of the planet was covered in fire and smoke. The beautiful world that had been home to 2 billion aliens was becoming a dead rock floating in space. Status report, Jake asked his crew. 70% of the planet's surface has been destroyed, Helen reported. No major cities remain. Most of the population is gone. Jake nodded. This was only the beginning. There were 46 more Zephyrian worlds to destroy. Each one would burn just like this one. The aliens would learn that humanity never forgave and never forgot. The second day brought more destruction to the alien world. Jake Morrison watched from his command chair as his ship continued to rain death on the planet below. The UHS Vengeance moved in a slow circle around the world, making sure no area was left untouched. Steve, I want you to focus on the military targets first, Jake told his tactical officer. Then we move to the industrial areas, then the residential zones. I want this done properly. Steve Walsh nodded and began marking targets on his control screen. He had been fighting aliens for 15 years and knew exactly how to destroy a civilization completely. Yes, sir. I'm seeing several underground military bunkers that survived yesterday's attack. They're deep but not deep enough. The ship's plasma cannons turned toward the new targets. These weapons could cut through solid rock like a hot knife through butter. The aliens had built their bunkers deep underground, thinking they would be safe there. They were wrong. Maria Santos worked at her engineering station, watching the ship's power levels carefully. Captain, all weapon systems are running at full power. The plasma generators are holding steady. We can keep firing for weeks without needing to stop. That was exactly what Jake wanted to hear. The UHS Vengeance had been designed for long battles. Its fusion reactors could provide almost unlimited energy. Its weapons could fire continuously without overheating. Lucy, any word from the alien government? Jake asked his communications officer. Lucy Thompson shook her head. No official messages, Captain. But I'm picking up lots of private communications. Families trying to find each other. Emergency services calling for help. Some are praying to their gods. Jake felt no sympathy for the aliens. He remembered visiting the ruins of New Austin Colony after the Zephyrians attacked it. Human bodies had been left in the streets. Children's toys were scattered among the broken buildings. The aliens had shown no mercy then, so they would receive none now. The attack continued throughout the morning. Every shot from the human ship destroyed something important on the planet below. Power plants exploded in brilliant flashes. Water treatment facilities melted into twisted metal. Hospitals collapsed into smoking rubble. Captain, we have incoming ships, announced Danny Miller from the pilot station. He was watching the long-range sensors carefully. Looks like a Zephyrian defense fleet. 20 ships, maybe more. Jake smiled coldly. The aliens were finally going to fight back. How long until they reach us? About 2 hours at their current speed, Danny replied. They're old ships, sir. Nothing like what we're flying. The human ship was much more advanced than anything the aliens had. While the Zephyrians had been busy enslaving people and stealing resources, humanity had been building better technology. Human scientists had learned to make stronger metals, more powerful weapons, and faster engines. Let them come, Jake said. It will save us the trouble of hunting them down later. While they waited for the enemy ships to arrive, the UHS Vengeance continued its systematic destruction of the planet. Helen Brooks had calculated the exact locations to hit to cause maximum damage. She knew which attacks would create earthquakes, which ones would cause floods, and which ones would fill the air with poisonous gas. I'm detecting movement in the southern continent, Helen reported. Large groups of civilians trying to evacuate to the polar regions. Jake studied the sensor data on his main screen. Millions of purple aliens were moving across the burning landscape, carrying whatever they could save from their destroyed homes. Many were injured from the explosions. Some were carrying small alien children. Fire on the evacuation routes, Jake ordered without hesitation. Cut off their escape paths. The ship's weapons turned toward the fleeing aliens. Plasma beams struck the ground in front of the refugee columns, creating walls of fire that could not be crossed. More shots hit behind them, trapping the aliens in a circle of destruction. Steve Walsh watched the tactical display as he coordinated the attack. Escape routes sealed, Captain. Estimated 3 million aliens trapped in the target area. Good work, Jake replied. He had no intention of letting any Zephyrians survive this attack. They had declared war on humanity by enslaving human colonies. Now they would face the consequences of that decision. The alien defense fleet finally arrived near the planet. Jake could see them on his main screen. 20 old warships that looked like flying crystals. They were beautiful in their own way, but they were also symbols of oppression and cruelty. Danny, launch our fighter drones, Jake commanded. The UHS Vengeance carried 500 unmanned combat drones. Each one was faster and deadlier than any alien fighter. The drones launched from the ship's hangar bays like a swarm of metal wasps. They moved through space in perfect formation, their weapons already charging for battle. Danny Miller controlled them all from his pilot station, his hands dancing across multiple control panels. The alien ships opened fire first. Beams of crystalline energy shot toward the human drones, but the small fighters were too fast and too smart. They dodged the attacks easily and began their counter-assault. Human plasma torpedoes slammed into the alien ships one after another. The crystalline hulls cracked and shattered under the impact. Alien ships that had ruled space for centuries were destroyed in minutes by humanity's superior technology. Enemy fleet eliminated, Danny reported. No human losses, Jake nodded with satisfaction. The space around the planet was now clear of any threats. His ship could continue its work without interruption. Lucy Thompson looked up from her communication station with a troubled expression. Captain, I'm receiving surrender messages from several alien cities. They're offering to give up all their human prisoners if we stop the bombing. Jake considered this for a moment. The aliens probably did have human prisoners somewhere on the planet, slaves who had been captured from raided colonies over the years. But accepting surrender was not part of his orders. Too late for deals, Jake said firmly. They should have thought about surrender before they started a war with humanity. The systematic destruction continued through the third day. By then, most of the planet's major cities were gone. The oceans were boiling from the heat of so many explosions. The atmosphere was thick with smoke and poisonous gases. Helen Brooks gave her final report as the sun set on the alien world. Captain, surface temperature has risen to over 200 degrees. The atmosphere is now toxic to Zephyrian life. Estimated population remaining, less than 1,000, all in deep underground shelters. Jake looked at the ruined planet on his main screen. What had once been a beautiful world full of life was now a burning wasteland. No alien would ever live there again. Excellent work, everyone, Jake announced to his crew. This planet is finished. Time to move on to the next target. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center of her flagship, the UHS Retribution, watching the reports come in from across the galaxy. Her fleet of 47 warships was spread across 12 star systems, each one attacking different alien worlds. The plan was working perfectly. Admiral, we have confirmation from Captain Morrison, reported her aide, Lieutenant Amy Clark. Kepler 442b has been completely destroyed. No survivors detected, Lisa nodded with grim satisfaction. Jake Morrison and his crew had done exactly what she expected. The UHS Vengeance was one of her best ships, and Jake was one of her most reliable captains. He understood what needed to be done. Her second-in-command, Vice Admiral Chris Baker, approached with a worried expression on his face. Chris was a good officer, but sometimes he was too soft for this kind of war. Admiral, don't you think we might be going too far? Complete extermination seems excessive. Lisa turned to face Chris with cold eyes. She had heard this argument before from other officers who did not understand what they were fighting against. Excessive? Tell that to the families on Proxima Centauri colony. Chris looked uncomfortable but pressed on. I understand your anger, Admiral. We all lost people to the Zephyrians. But surely some of them are innocent. Their children, for instance. Lisa walked to the large window that looked out into space. She could see several of her battleships moving toward their assigned targets, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy multiple planets. "Let me remind you what happened on Proxima Centauri," Lisa said quietly. "The Zephyrians landed with promises of trade and peace. Then they started taking our people. First the adults for slave labor, then the children for their sick entertainment." Chris remained silent, but Lisa could see he was listening. "They sold human children as exotic pets to rich alien families," Lisa continued, her voice growing harder. "They forced human families to fight each other for food. When the colonists tried to rebel, the aliens bombed the entire settlement from orbit. 3 million humans died in one day." She turned back to Chris with fire in her eyes. "Those aliens had a choice. They could have left us alone. They could have traded fairly. Instead, they chose to treat us like animals. So now they get to learn what happens when you make humanity angry." Chris nodded slowly. He had seen the footage from Proxima Centauri. Every human in the fleet had watched those horrible videos. They showed alien guards laughing as they whipped human workers. They showed Zephyrian nobles keeping human children in cages as pets. They showed mass graves filled with humans who had worked themselves to death. "Orders confirmed, Admiral," Chris said. "No mercy for any Zephyrian world." Lisa walked back to her command chair and studied the tactical display. Her fleet was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who had lost family or friends to alien attacks. They all wanted revenge. "Amy, give me status reports from all our attack groups," Lisa ordered. Lieutenant Clark began reading from her data pad. "Captain Lisa Turner and the UHS Devastator are attacking the industrial world of Zeph 7. Enemy factories and mining facilities are being systematically destroyed. Captain Rick Stone and his strike force have eliminated the military academy on Zeph 12. All enemy cadets and instructors confirmed dead." Lisa smiled coldly. The Zephyrian Military Academy had trained the officers who led attacks on human colonies. Now those same buildings were smoking ruins, and the next generation of alien warriors would never exist. "What about our ground forces?" Lisa asked. "General Tony Martinez has landed Marines on 6 partially destroyed worlds," Amy reported. "They're hunting down survivors who escaped the orbital bombardment. No prisoners are being taken, as ordered." The human Marines were specially trained for this kind of operation. They wore advanced armor that protected them from radiation and poisonous atmospheres. Their weapons could punch through alien buildings and underground shelters. Most importantly, they showed no mercy to any enemy they found. Lisa had personally selected Tony Martinez for this job. He had been a colony security chief when the Zephyrians attacked his world. His wife and 2 sons had been killed in the first bombing. Since then, he had devoted his life to fighting aliens with ruthless efficiency. "Admiral, we're receiving a priority message from Earth," announced the communications officer. "It's from President Johnson." Lisa nodded for the message to be put through. The main screen flickered and showed the face of President Robert Johnson, the leader of the human government. He looked tired but determined. "Admiral Carter," the president said, "I want you to know that you have the full support of Earth and all human colonies. The Senate voted unanimously to approve your mission. Destroy every Zephyrian world. Leave none alive to threaten humanity again." "Understood, Mr. President," Lisa replied. "We will not stop until the threat is eliminated completely." The president leaned forward in his chair. "The alien empires in nearby sectors are watching what we do here, Admiral. We need to send them a message they will never forget. Show them what happens when someone hurts humanity." After the transmission ended, Lisa turned back to her tactical display. The war was going better than she had hoped. Human technology was proving superior to alien defenses in every battle. Their ships were faster, their weapons were more powerful, and their crews were more motivated. "Amy, how many Zephyrian worlds have we destroyed so far?" Lisa asked. 15 confirmed destroyed, Admiral. 22 more under attack. 10 remaining on our target list." Lisa studied the numbers with satisfaction. In less than a week, they had wiped out almost half of the alien empire. The remaining worlds would fall just as quickly. "Any word from the Zephyrian government?" she asked. "Are they trying to negotiate?" "No official communications, Admiral," the communications officer reported. "But our intelligence suggests their leadership is in complete panic. They're evacuating their capital world and moving their fleet to defensive positions. Lisa laughed coldly. The aliens were finally beginning to understand what they were facing. For 30 years, they had bullied weaker species and taken whatever they wanted. Now they were discovering what it felt like to be helpless. Set course for Zephyr Prime, Lisa ordered. It's time to finish this war. The UHS Retribution and 15 other human battleships began moving toward the alien capital system. They would arrive in 2 days, just enough time for the aliens to see them coming and understand their doom. As her fleet moved through space, Lisa thought about her daughter Sarah. The girl had been only 8 years old when the Zephyrians captured her during a colony raid. Lisa had searched for years, following rumors and raiding alien slave markets. She had finally found Sarah's body in a mass grave on an alien mining world. Her daughter had been worked to death in the alien mines. Sarah had died crying for her mother, surrounded by thousands of other human children who had suffered the same fate. The aliens had treated them like disposable tools, working them until they collapsed and then throwing their bodies away like garbage. For Sarah, Lisa whispered to herself as she watched the stars pass by her window, for all the children they killed. The final battle was coming, and Lisa Carter intended to make sure not a single alien survived to threaten humanity again. Empress Zilthera III stood in her crystal palace on Zephyr Prime, watching the stars through the massive transparent dome above her throne room. Each star that disappeared from view meant another Zephyrian world had been destroyed by the human fleet. In 3 days, she had lost half of her empire. Her royal advisor, General Kethmore, approached the throne with his forearms folded in defeat. His purple skin was darker than usual, which meant he was afraid. Your Imperial Majesty, we have lost contact with Zeph 23, Zeph 31, and Zeph 44. The human ships are destroying everything in their path. Zilthara closed her large black eyes and tried to stay calm. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Her ancestors had conquered dozens of species and built the greatest civilization the universe had ever seen. Now it was all falling apart because of one small blue planet called Earth. How many worlds do we have left? She asked in her musical alien voice. 17, Your Majesty, Kethmore replied sadly. And the humans are moving toward 8 of those right now. Our defense fleets cannot stop them. Their technology is too advanced. The Empress walked to her communication chamber and activated the holographic display. Images of burning planets appeared in the air around her. Worlds that had been beautiful and full of life were now dead rocks floating in space. Billions of her people had died in the past week. What about our secret weapons? She asked. The weather control systems we developed on Zeph 9. General Kethmore shook his head. Zeph 9 was destroyed yesterday, Your Majesty. The humans targeted it specifically. We think they knew about our research there. Zilthara felt a chill run through her body. The humans seemed to know everything about Zephyrian military capabilities. They had attacked the most important targets first, destroying command centers, weapon factories, and research facilities before moving on to civilian areas. Then what about the quantum bombs? She demanded. The ones that can collapse entire star systems? The general looked even more worried. We only have 3 of them, Your Majesty, and they are still experimental. We don't know if they will work against human ships. The quantum bombs were the most powerful weapons the Zephyrians had ever created. Each one could destroy a sun and everything around it, but they had never been tested in actual combat, and building them had taken decades of work by their best scientists. Deploy them immediately, Zilthara ordered. I don't care if they're experimental. Use whatever we have. Meanwhile, in the outer system, Admiral Lisa Carter's battle fleet was approaching Zephyr Prime. 16 human battleships moved in perfect formation through space, their weapons charged and ready for the final battle. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, built specifically to destroy alien civilizations. Captain Jake Morrison and the UHS Vengeance had joined the fleet after finishing their work at Kepler 442b. His crew was tired but excited about the chance to destroy the alien capital world. They had waited years for this moment. Admiral, we're detecting massive defensive installations around Zephyr Prime, reported the fleet's intelligence officer. Orbital weapon platforms, energy shields, and at least 10,000 enemy warships. Lisa Carter studied the tactical display with interest. The aliens had gathered everything they had left to defend their home world. It would be the biggest space battle in galactic history. Numbers don't matter when you have superior technology, she told her staff. Our ships are better than anything they can build. Our weapons are more powerful. Our crews are more motivated. The first Zephyrian ships moved to intercept the human fleet while still far from their home world. They came in waves of crystalline fighters and larger cruisers, all of them desperate to stop the human advance. But the battle was over almost before it began. Human plasma weapons cut through alien ships like they were made of paper. Advanced targeting systems ensured that every shot hit its mark. The aliens fought bravely, but bravery was not enough against superior firepower. Back on Zephyr Prime, Empress Zilthara watched the battle through long-range sensors. Her ships were being destroyed by the dozens, then by the hundreds. The human fleet barely slowed down as it pushed through her defenses. "Deploy the quantum bombs now," she screamed at General Kethmore, before it's too late. 3 Zephyrian ships broke away from the main battle and began moving toward different human vessels. Each ship carried one of the experimental quantum bombs. The plan was to get close to the human ships and detonate the weapons, hopefully destroying several enemy vessels at once. But the human sensors detected the approaching ships immediately. Admiral Carter realized these vessels were different from the others. They were moving in strange patterns and giving off unusual energy readings. "All ships, target those 3 vessels immediately," she ordered. "Maximum firepower." The human fleet concentrated all of its weapons on the 3 Zephyrian ships. Hundreds of plasma beams and antimatter torpedoes struck them within seconds. The alien vessels exploded in brilliant flashes of light, taking their quantum bombs with them. The explosions were much bigger than normal ship destructions. They created temporary black holes that sucked in nearby debris and distorted space itself, but they were too far away from the human ships to cause any damage. "Quantum weapons detected and neutralized," reported the fleet intelligence officer. "The aliens just used up their most powerful weapons for nothing." Admiral Carter smiled coldly. The Zephyrians were running out of options. Their conventional forces were being destroyed. Their secret weapons had failed, and their homeworld was now within range of human guns. On Zephyr Prime, the alien population was in complete panic. Millions of Zephyrians crowded around spaceports trying to find ships to escape on, but there were not enough vessels for everyone, and most of the commercial spacecraft had already fled to other star systems. Empress Zilthara made one final desperate decision. She activated the planetary communication system and broadcast a message to the approaching human fleet. Her words were translated into human language by the ship's computers. "Admiral Carter," she said, her musical voice now filled with desperation. "I am Empress Zilthara of the Zephyrian Empire. I am prepared to offer you complete surrender. We will free all human prisoners, pay massive reparations, and withdraw from all contested territories. Please spare my people." Lisa Carter received the message on the bridge of her flagship. She listened to the alien Empress's plea with no emotion on her face. Her senior officers watched her carefully, waiting to see how she would respond. "No surrender," Lisa said simply. "No mercy." They had 30 years to make peace with humanity. They chose war instead. The human fleet moved into orbit around Zephyr Prime. The alien homeworld was beautiful, with crystal cities that sparkled like jewels and floating platforms that moved through the clouds. Gardens of exotic plants covered the continents in patterns of purple and gold. But Admiral Carter saw none of the beauty. She saw only the world that had ordered the enslavement of human colonies. She saw the place where alien nobles had bought human children as pets. She saw the capital of an empire that had treated her species like animals. "All ships target the major population centers," she ordered. "Begin orbital bombardment. Leave nothing alive." The final battle for Zephyr Prime was about to begin. The bombardment of Zephyr Prime began at dawn on the alien world. Admiral Lisa Carter watched from the bridge of the UHS Retribution as her fleet of 16 battleships opened fire on the planet below. Plasma beams as bright as small suns struck the crystal cities, turning them into pools of molten glass. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew on the UHS Vengeance focused their weapons on the Imperial Palace. The massive crystal dome that had protected alien royalty for centuries cracked and shattered under the assault. Empress Zilthara and her entire court vanished in a flash of superheated plasma. The alien defense platforms in orbit tried to fight back, but they were destroyed within minutes. Human weapons technology was simply too advanced for the Zephyrian forces to handle. Centuries of easy conquest against weaker species had made the aliens soft and unprepared for real war. "Status report," Admiral Carter requested from her tactical officer. 70% of major population centers destroyed in the first hour, came the reply. Alien orbital defenses eliminated. No human casualties reported. Lisa nodded with satisfaction. The battle was proceeding exactly as planned. Her fleet had enough firepower to destroy multiple planets, and they were using every bit of it against the alien homeworld. Down on the planet's surface, millions of Zephyrians ran through the streets in terror as their world burned around them. The crystal spires that had reached toward the sky for thousands of years collapsed into rubble. The floating gardens that had been symbols of alien civilization crashed to the ground in flames. Dr. Helen Brooks monitored the planet's geological structure from her station on the UHS Vengeance. Captain Morrison, I'm detecting massive seismic activity. The bombardment is destabilizing the planet's crust. We should see continent-wide earthquakes within the next few hours. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the dying world below. What had once been the capital of a galactic empire was becoming a lifeless wasteland. Good. Make sure nothing survives. The systematic destruction continued for 6 hours without pause. Every major city on Zephyr Prime was reduced to smoking craters. Industrial complexes that had produced ships and weapons for the alien military were melted into slag. Even the orbital shipyards where Zephyrian warships had been built were torn apart by human plasma fire. By noon, the planet's beautiful purple oceans had begun to boil from the heat of so many explosions. The elegant crystal architecture that had made Zephyr Prime famous across the galaxy was gone, replaced by fields of broken glass and twisted metal. Any signs of organized resistance? Admiral Carter asked her intelligence officer. Negative, Admiral. All military command centers have been destroyed. The alien fleet has been completely eliminated. A few civilian ships managed to escape the system, but they pose no threat. Lisa studied the sensor readings from the planet below. The surface temperature was rising rapidly as the atmosphere filled with smoke and poisonous gases. Soon, nothing would be able to live there. 3 months later, the war was officially over. The last Zephyrian military base had been destroyed. The last alien colony world had been reduced to radioactive ash. An empire that had ruled dozens of star systems for over a millennium had been completely wiped out in less than a season. Admiral Carter stood in her ready room aboard the UHS Retribution, reviewing the final casualty reports. 47 alien worlds had been destroyed. The Zephyrian population had been reduced from 50 billion to 0. Not a single alien military unit remained intact anywhere in known space. Human losses had been minimal. A few dozen crew members had been injured in accidents, but no human ships had been seriously damaged. The technological advantage had been so overwhelming that the war had been more like an extermination than a real battle. Lieutenant Amy Clark entered with the latest intelligence reports. Admiral, our scouts have confirmed that surviving Zephyrians have fled to the Andromeda Galaxy. They're spreading warnings about humanity to every species they encounter. Excellent, Lisa replied. That will save us the trouble of delivering the message ourselves. The door chimed again and Captain Jake Morrison entered the room. His ship had just finished patrolling the ruins of the former alien empire, making sure no hidden bases or survivors remained. Admiral, Jake reported, the sector is completely clear. I recommend we begin the colonization phase. Our survey teams have identified 12 former Zephyrian worlds that will be habitable again within a few centuries. Lisa nodded approvingly. Human colonies were already requesting permission to settle the conquered territory. The irradiated planets would eventually cool down and become new homes for Earth's expanding population. What about the other alien empires in nearby sectors? She asked. Any reaction to our campaign? Jake smiled grimly. Yes, ma'am. The Andromedans have pulled back their fleets to defensive positions. The Centauri Republic has sent messages offering trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Everyone is being very polite all of a sudden. The message was spreading across the galaxy exactly as planned. Dozens of alien species who had never paid attention to humanity before were now studying human military capabilities with great interest. None of them wanted to suffer the same fate as the Zephyrians. Admiral Carter walked to her computer terminal and began composing her final report on the war. This document would be read by every human military commander and distributed to alien governments across known space. It needed to be clear and unmistakable. Final military assessment, Zephyrian campaign, she typed. The Zephyrian Empire has been completely eliminated as a threat to human interests. All military assets destroyed. All population centers neutralized, all territorial claims voided. Estimated time for sector recovery, 1,000 years. She paused and thought about what else needed to be said. This report would become part of human military doctrine for centuries to come. Future generations needed to understand both the success of the campaign and the reasons behind it. Strategic lessons learned, she continued typing. Technological superiority combined with total commitment to victory can overcome any numerical disadvantage. Enemy attempts at negotiation or surrender were correctly rejected, as partial victory would have left future threats intact. The Admiral saved her report and activated the fleet-wide communication system. Every human ship in the sector would receive this message, and it would be transmitted to Earth and all human colonies within hours. This is Admiral Carter speaking to all human forces. She began. The Zephyrian threat has been permanently eliminated. Our mission is complete. However, this victory represents more than just the end of one war. It represents a new chapter in human expansion across the galaxy. She looked out through her window at the dead planet of Zephyr Prime, still glowing with heat from the bombardment months earlier. Let this campaign serve as a warning to any species considering hostile action against humanity. We are not a race that forgives. We are not a species that shows mercy to those who harm our people. The message was recorded and prepared for transmission to every corner of known space. Within days, it would be translated into hundreds of alien languages and broadcast on every major communication network. The galaxy would know what humanity was capable of when provoked. Cross us at your own extinction, Admiral Carter concluded. This is the price of making humanity your enemy. As the transmission ended, the human fleet began its journey home. They left behind them a sector of space filled with dead worlds and broken dreams. The Zephyrian Empire had learned too late that some species should never be underestimated, and that cruelty would always be repaid with interest. The age of human dominance in the galaxy had begun.